Now let's take a look at the college football playoff, and we'll lead off with you on this one, Stephanie, as we've got out there in Atlanta, Georgia, the Peach Bowl, as it's Ohio State and Georgia. Georgia opened up in a lot of places a 7-point favorite. Now they're a 6.5-point favorite, with the total on this game going up to between 62 and 62.5. And I'm not sure if you see it the way that I do, but if you like Ohio State, you probably like the over. You like them to be able to scratch out quite a few points against, my opinion, really the nation's best defense in Georgia. Meanwhile, if you like this total under, it probably bodes very well for Georgia, them being able to contain C.J. Stroud. What is your overall take on this game? Because I feel like the side and total in this game might be a little bit correlated.
I agree with you. Looking at Georgia's performance in their last 5 bowl games, the under has hit. And on the flip side, Ohio State, they're good for an over. It's hit 9 of their last 10 games. So it really is a testament as to which side you're taking in this one. And we see that 66.7% of the public are already cashing in on the Buckeyes, but we had not seen any line movement on the sports books. So that's pretty telling, but I do think that Georgia will have control for most of this game. Their defense has been shining like it did against Tennessee, which is the top-ranked offense at their prime when they played Georgia. They only scored 13 against the Bulldogs. And also, Kirby Smart just saw the perfect game plan from Harbaugh against Ohio State, who had plenty of time to prepare. That rivalry game is a 365-day preparation, and Harbaugh showed up. And now Kirby Smart, I know that with a month to prepare for this one, he's going to show up ready to the Buckeyes in a bowl game that they're very accustomed to, just a short hour and a half drive from Athens, right here in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Not to mention, he's won 7 straight games when having more than a week to prepare. That dates back to a loss against Florida in 2020. But I do think that Ohio State is the best matched team against Georgia. When you look at their secondary, the Georgia secondary, that's the one weaker spot. If Georgia has a weakness on defense, I think that would be it. And up against this receiver core at Ohio State, I mean, Marvin Harris Jr., even without Jackson Smith-Njigba, who declared early for the draft, we haven't seen a whole lot of him this season. And the Buckeyes still did well with such a full receiver room. Credit to Brian Hartline and how he can recruit the top talent. But also, Mine Williams comes back, so I do think C.J. Stroud will have all the weapons he needs to put up a good fight against the Bulldogs and hopefully keep this one close. I do have concerns with him in bigger games. I do think that he tends to get a little jittery in the pocket, and so I really just hope he can get that in check heading into this game. We saw the struggle against Michigan. But Georgia's defense this year is not as dominant as it has been in recent years. That last year, historically great defense, won the national championship, but they gave up only 20 or more points one time last season, and that was against Alabama in the SEC championship in a game they didn't really need to win. This year, they've already given up 20 or more points 4 times already. The Buckeyes, on the other hand, they've gone over 20 points every game this season except for 3. The Michigan, that one was a fluke. That was just a very bad performance from Ohio State, a bit of an outlier. Then you had that Notre Dame game to kick off the season, getting their feet wet, and then that Northwestern game where weather was a big element. So I think in a bowl game environment, they have a month to prepare. I think they're going to show up with vengeance. Also, not to mention, Ohio State as an underdog is pretty powerful. They are great with the chip on their shoulder. I saw that under Ryan Day when the Buckeyes were so upset against that Clemson loss in the Fiesta Bowl back in the 2019 season. They came back in 2020. They fought to play that season, and they showed Clemson how upset they were about the year prior, and they won to go on to the national championship against Alabama that season. After only playing 5 games, really tough Big Ten protocols put out with COVID. So the Buckeyes with a chip on their shoulder is tough. And let's just remember the last time the Buckeyes were a 4 seed, snuck their way into a playoff after being ranked 5 the week prior, and everybody doubted whether or not they should even be in the playoff. Well, they showed up. They rallied against an SEC opponent with a 3rd-string quarterback in that Sugar Bowl on to play against Oregon in the national championship to win it all. So the Buckeyes as an underdog is pretty good. I understand why bettors are putting money on them. I'm just a little nervous to do it against such a solid Georgia team that's been very consistent all season. So the better bet, I think, is to take Ohio State over 14.5 points in the second half. That's plus money, plus 110. I love that. That's great value. The total for the full game is 27.5, but I feel very confident in that second half. They're a second half team. They always come out strong. Stroud can get rid of his, kickoff jitters. So that's my best bet for this one. And I'm going to watch that one very nervously, but I think it's going to be pretty close. So we'll see how this one goes.
Yep, with Ohio State, they certainly have been able to get things cooking with C.J. Stroud. He was able to make it back to New York for the Heisman ceremony. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get it. And why Stetson Bennett was there, I have no idea. But you've got two guys that went to New York for the ceremony that are going to be taking part in this one. And Kobe